Amy and this is my partner Maggie, and together we're ThinkerThemer. And if you're new to our channel, here we review board games from two different perspectives, one from the story and the theme, which is Maggie's domain, and then myself from the mechanics and the thinky elements that really make it a great, exciting game to play. And today, I'm super excited. You excited?
Yes.
Massively excited to talk about one of our top three games ever, and that is Great Western Trail.
Great Western Trail is by Alexander Pfister, and the theme of it is that you're essentially a rancher, and as a rancher you've got your cows, and it's your job to herd those cows all the way from Texas through to Kansas. By the time you reach Kansas is when you're going to be able to ship them off in a train, and the better the cows, the better the points that you're going to get, and the better the money you're going to get for those cows. Along the way, there's going to be different elements that are either going to be helping or hindering that journey, and you're going to be able to do things like, for example, upgrade your team, get better cowboys so you can get better cows, get engineers to help you optimize your train or rail track, and craftsmen so you can actually improve your buildings along the way so you can do better things and end up with a better quality cattle and cows by the time you reach Kansas.
Let's talk about how you play it. Just as a brief overview, obviously, in this channel, we don't go through all of the rules. Please don't use this as a how to play. But I do want to explain what it's all about because by getting a sense of the gameplay, I think we can share with you what we really love about this game. And so when you first look at this board, there's a lot going on. It's a very busy board, but once you've grasped the basics, it's actually not too difficult of a game. And what I love about this game, and people who know me know that I love a sneaky rondelle, and this is a rondelle. This is a rondelle that's dressed up as a journey from where are we going from?
From Texas.
Texas to Kansas, and even though it doesn't look like a board that has a traditional rondelle, so like a heaven and ale style kind of very clear circle, you are essentially going around and around. You're repeating that journey, and you can move as quickly or as slowly as you like through that rondelle. When you start this game, you have a deck of cows, of cattle. And those cattle range in value from 1 to 2. So you don't have any super high valued cows. But what you're trying to do by the time you get to Kansas City is you're trying to maximize the value of your hand, but you're also trying to ensure differentiation between the different colors of cows, because if you have a pair in there that are the same color, you only count one of them. So along the way, there are actions on the rondelle or the journey to Kansas that are going to allow you to swap out the cards that are in your current hand for new cards from your deck. And you're basically trying to work on that hand of cards until you've maximized the value that you're going to get at the end of the trail, which means that if you don't have a very good hand, you might spend longer making your way through the trail so that you can ensure that you've optimized your group of cows. You can, throughout the game, improve your deck. So like most deck builders, you're wanting to take out the rubbish from your deck and add in higher value cards so that when you draw your hands, you're more likely to have better cows. And you do that by using the public market. So there's a cow market here, or a cattle market, but the higher the value of the cow, the more cowboys you need. And how do you get cowboys? This part of the board has an employment market where there are 3 types of workers that you can hire. The first are cowboys. Cowboys are going to help you wrangle those higher valued cows into your deck to ensure that when you get to Kansas City, you've got a very powerful hand. The second type of worker is a builder, and a builder is going to help you build buildings on the path on the way through to Kansas City. And why do you want to do that? Well, first of all, every building that you have, and you start with buildings as part of the setup, every building that you have has a unique ability that only you can use. So at the start of the game, there are neutral buildings, which everybody can use. But when you put out a building onto the board, it will have a unique ability that only you can use. You can stop there and use that action. However, Adding that building there is an obstacle for every other player. So it's making their trip to Kansas longer, but also if they want to take a shortcut, they're going to have to go through some hazards on the board. And those hazards are also going to slow them down, but it might avoid them going past your building, because sometimes your buildings also cost money to go through. So you can strategically place a toll halfway through the board where you see other players are paying you money to go through your building. And you don't want to be paying a lot of tolls, because money in this game is really hard to come by, and you need it for everything. You need it to hire people, you need it to buy cows, and you're really only getting it every time you take cows to Kansas. So let's explain what happens when you get to Kansas City. When you get to Kansas City, amongst other things, the main thing is that your hand is going to be evaluated for the value of the cows and the differentiation of the cows in your hand. And you're trying to maximize the total number of points. The points that your hands are worth are going to allow you to go to different cities across the top of the board, all the way from Kansas City if you've got 0 points in your hands, through to San Francisco if you've got 18 points or more in your hand. But the catch is, and why I love this game so much, is that you can only really visit most cities once. And once you've put one of your markers there, that means that next round you're going to have to achieve an even higher value set of cows. And so there is a very clear timeline from the beginning of the game as you progress that you need to be improving your deck in order to be able to get to the next city. The other element of that is that you can only take your cows to a city where you've moved your train and unlocked some of the penalty spaces. So if you don't move your train far enough along to the city, for example, if I was going to El Paso, I would want to have my train somewhere close up near El Paso, because for every marker that I'm behind with my train for my delivery, I have to pay $1. And again, money's hard to come by, so you don't want to be wasting your dollars on penalties when you're not getting that much money for your cows to begin with. And so moving along the train track becomes easier when you employ engineers. So that's the final type of worker that you can employ, and they help you move faster along that track, which not only unlocks and makes sure you don't get those penalties, it also gives you an opportunity to get some unique scoring conditions and bonuses that other players will not have access to. The final part of the game is the objective cards. For example, this objective card says that by the end of the game, you would need to have 1 red, blue, or yellow cow and 1 brown cow and a building built. And they have to all be unique, so you can't use the same building to score on multiple objective cards. And if you meet these conditions, you would get a bonus 3 points at the end of the game. The interesting part about these cards is that you don't have to, when you receive them, you don't have to play them straight away, because you've got to be really careful. If you don't achieve the objective, they're actually worth minus victory points. But the other part is, if you are hesitant and you hold off putting them down, they go into your deck and muddy your deck, and that is really annoying. So it's a bit of a tension between when you play them and how many of them you collect along the way. What do you think about this game? Like, how would you explain to someone why we love this game so much?
I think, look, I really enjoy this sense of progression. You do really feel like you are, you're building the deck, but you're actually getting all these different range of cows, and it's really exciting to, just like with any deck builder, as soon as you've got a really high value card in there, waiting for that cow to come, and so you can hold on to it so you can sell it for high value or whatever it is. I love the integration of how the different workers, the worker types will help you with different, with the different activities. I feel like the theme is pretty well integrated. You do feel like you're making a journey. You do have the flexibility of going as fast or as slow as you want. I do love also the obstacles and how the tension that creates, in terms of sometimes if someone's put a building with tolls, sometimes you have multiple players doing that, and it becomes very expensive to go down one path. And so you're kind of really looking at the hazards going, oh, I'd rather pay more for the hazards potentially, but at least I'm paying it to the bank. I'm not paying it to that player. You also, there's the added bonus of you can get victory points for having some of those hazards, and sometimes you'll need those as part of the some of the objectives. With the Indian trade is also another interesting area, because the Indian trade can either, with the TPs, you can either gain money through it, or it might cost you money. So again, it might dictate which direction you go. In terms of it being competitive, I do enjoy that you're creating your range of cattle and kind of working towards that, but you have a little bit of an idea of how everybody else is going, but you don't necessarily, it's not clear who the winner is going to be necessarily, unless someone is, incredible at it and it's just wiping the floor with you very, very early on. But it doesn't tend to happen. There's a lot of surprise points that can happen at the end.
Yeah, with the objective cards and the little station objectives as well that you're collecting along the way.
Yes.
But I think what's really fun about this game as well is that you come in and you're like, I'm going to do this strategy, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to get all cowboys, go cowboy strong, and I'm going to have so many cows and they're going to be worth so many points. Or you might be like, I'm going to build all the buildings and create all these tolls and just be really annoying for everybody. And because the buildings are also worth victory points at the end once you've built them. But I think that like what's interesting is like how when you go past a building, or you have to, because you can only at the beginning of the game take 3 steps, up to 3 steps at a time, eventually you can unlock so that you can go further along the track. But I think that because you're forced to stop somewhere, it's really tempting to just take that action. So if you land on somewhere where it's like you can employ a worker, it's like, oh, well, I'm here. I'm here, and oh, yeah, okay, and there's a really cheap cowboy. I'll take the cowboy. And you spend your money, and then you go to the next point where you wanted to actually do something for your strategy, and now you don't have enough money.
Yeah.
And it's like, you've got to really think ahead about, you've got to plan out, okay, what do I want to achieve in this trip to Kansas City, or this time around the Rondell, and how can I maximize my victory points and my money by the end? And that is a really tricky puzzle, and I think you can get overwhelmed quite quickly with just being, if you're too opportunistic in this game, I think that you can fall down because it takes money away from your broader strategy.
I also really love that you can use different strategies, and I'm very big on, I'm not very flexible or adaptable when it comes to like changing strategy halfway through the game, but I do love it. It makes me want to play a game again, because I kind of go, oh, I wonder, how things will play out if I focus on just getting my train as far as possible and claiming as many of those kind of stations and getting the points from that, seeing what benefits I'll get. It almost feels like, for me as the themer, what I love about a game is almost trying to get into the head of the designer and going, what were they going for in terms of what, if you are actually a rancher, what's going to be the best investment of your time and effort and energy and money, essentially. So I love it when a game rewards you for following the theme, in the sense of, hopefully in the real world, if you were to use a similar strategy, that's what would pay off as well.
Yeah. I mean, as usual, I'm just doing the calculations of money versus victory points versus time, and keeping an eye on what everybody else is doing and what they're likely to take, and hoping to take it first, particularly when it comes to the
cows. You have to admit, though, it's very exciting when you get a new cow, because the thing is, with the different and the high level cows, it's like, ooh, now I've got a West Highland.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
it's
even more exciting when I know that you were going to take it next turn. Even if I didn't need the cow. No, you always need the cows. But yeah, I think this game has that thing that when you finish it, you're like, oh, next time. Yeah. Next time I'm going to do what the winner did, and I'm going to build, lots of tolls everywhere, or I'm going to get more engineers, or I really should have bought more cowboys. There are so many elements to this game where it's actually really perfectly balanced. I mean, Alexander Pfister has just done such an incredible job of this game. because you always feel like you're in it to win it. You always feel like you've got a chance of winning.
Yes.
You always feel like you can make up ground. It's probably a game that rewards a little bit of focusing on a particular strategy. Like it's hard to do everything well. But I also love that the player boards, as you are progressing through the game, as you're taking cows to different cities, you're unlocking more and more from your player board, which allows you to have more cows in your hand at once, or move further along, or activate some bonuses that are going to help you throughout the later stages of the game. So can't recommend this game enough. It has been in our top 3 for a long time, and I can't imagine anything pushing it out, except for maybe the more recently released Maracaibo, but we're yet to get that one to the table. So for now, Great Western Trail will definitely be on our table for a long time. I just love this game. Also wanted to note just at the back end of this that we have the expansion, so Rails to the North. It actually introduces a lot of changes to the game, but the main one being a large piece of board that goes to the top. That's why it's called Rails to the North. To the top, which kind of connects the railway that you're working on to a bigger network of bonuses and different things that you can unlock along the way for victory points. I think that it's interesting. It's hard to go back from that to the base game because it does create like a whole other strategy, which some people really like that strategy. Some of our friends really like that strategy, so it's hard to play it without it. But for me, I'm a bit of a purist in that I feel like the game is so perfect in its design. Like there is not anything I would change about this. I love it and I love it every time. And so introducing Rails to the North is a bit like adding something in that's just a bit of a distraction for me.
It felt like a distraction, yeah. And again, it's like it felt like then I was focusing so much on just the rail side of it, what stations I'm gonna go to, and that then I lost sight of the journey along the way and all the great things
everything
that happen
else
along the way.
Although I would say that if you love this game, I would recommend getting it because it's like playing a slightly different game. So it does increase the variability and it'll probably improve the longevity of getting the game to your table. So it is nice to mix it up. We'll definitely keep the expansion and probably play with it a lot of the time, but there's just something that's so pure, it doesn't need it. That's what I'm trying to say. Definitely. It doesn't need it. It's a fantastic game with or without it.
Because we do know that there are games where they do need the expansion.
To fix something. Usually if something's broken, it will fix something that's broken.
Don't fix it if it's not broken.
It's not broke, don't fix it. Yeah, it's great.
But having said that, that additional complexity that it adds, it's quite nice. If you've played the base game time and time again and you love it and you want something to sort of spice it up and give your brain a bit of new stimulation, then
But if anything, I feel like it just highlights how perfect it was to begin with. But anyway, that's Great Western Trail. So who would we recommend this game to? I don't think this is a game that I would tackle with newbies to the hobby.
No.
I think that it requires you to do a bit of a point salad kind of thing in your head to work out an optimal strategy. There's so much going on that it's hard to understand how everything comes together unless you're a bit of a gamer. So this is certainly kind of mid-weight up. If I was trying to get people into a heavier game space, I might start with Great Western Trail because it's such a great game and the theme is so wonderful that I think that there's a lot to enjoy about it, and it might get people into a heavier state of mind. But it's also a game that, once you've taught it, and everyone knows all the different strategies, their replay is just so competitive. It's just so intense. And the game ends fairly quickly. And so you're kind of very focused on doing a lot of stuff in a short amount of time, or it feels like a short amount of time. There's never, someone's racing ahead and at Kansas City and you're panicking like, but I'm back here. Like I haven't moved my train at all. So there's like multiple places and it is highly competitive, and that's what I love about it. Very tight.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So that's our review of Great Western Trail. We recommend that everybody have a copy of this on their shelf. It is a fantastic game. If you liked this review, please feel free to subscribe to our channel and you'll be notified for new game reviews. But other than that, that's us, and have a lovely day.
See ya.
Bye.